Hello everyone. How is everybody doing today? Happy Saturday. It is a hot one out there. I'm just getting things pulled up on my end here. It looks like it's finally loaded. It was having some trouble getting going, but I think I see it all here on my end. I'm just going to make sure that there's no volume playing on this end so that we don't have interference. Okay, I think we are good. Okay. Hi Ramona, how are you? I am back with day 3 or project 3 of the Spotlight on Nature series. I am going to create this card for you guys today. This time it's watercolor, and I am going to switch out the coloring for the one that I'm demonstrating for you guys today. So this one is done with Calypso Coral, Flirty Flamingo, and Daffodil Delight. And then I am going to switch and do some pinks with the navy for my second card. I created this one to coordinate with the color scheme of the cards, or the card that I made the other day for you guys, one of them. So this one here. And this one I actually had done I had done 3 of them because I did one for you guys on live, and then I also did one with my mystery stamping with my team. So we actually have 3 different DSP featured. I did point that out the other day, but just in case you missed that one. So Country Woods, this one is from Wildly Flowering, and then this one is from Country Lace, I think it's called. But 3 different offerings, or 3 different options for your DSP. Hi Linda, how are you? And then I wanted to go with this color scheme for one of the cards today, and then I also wanted to do one that goes with the color scheme from my stamp club from this month. So the card that I'm going to color for you guys today will be the same card as this, but in these colors. So we are going to go with that. So I'll just move these ones. Now, of course, these ones were done with blends, and this one I'm going to do with watercolor, just to give you guys some different options. All right, so just a quick recap. I have posted on my page the registration for the Stampin' Cross Country that will take place at the end of September. The early bird pricing ends on the 27th. So if you are interested in joining us virtually on the 27th and 28th of September, then make sure you register by the 27th to get the discounted pricing. And then we will keep registration open until the 3rd. So I'm planning some of the table favors. We'll be doing the same as each other, but just sourcing some stuff for that. So be sure to register so we can get those things for you guys. All right, now I'm going to review the supplies, and then we will get started. So I should have done something on the inside. I didn't do a liner on this one, but that's okay. So I have a 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5.5. That is Night of Navy. I have a 4 by 5 1/4. This is embossed with the new, oh gosh, plaid, I think it's called. Let me just see if I have a holiday catalog handy. I did not bring one in here. Oh, wait. I do have it. Let's just check. I don't think I'm allowed to show you guys yet. So it is called the Forever Plaid 3D folder. I love plaid, so this embossing folder is a favorite already of mine. So I love that one. Now I have a watercolor piece of paper that is 3.5 by 5. I'm actually going to trim that down. It was a little big after I got assembling my card, so this is half a sheet. So if you have our packs of watercolor paper, you can get 2 cards out of your watercolor paper. I have used the Spotlight on Nature dies, so you get all of these with the dies. I think they're still currently on back order, but the stamp set is available, and I use this one here. I love these dies. And then I'm going to use some scraps of Blackberry Bliss on this one, and a little bit of the DSP. So on this one here, I went with a Calypso Coral scrap and a Calypso Coral DSP strip. All right, so I'll keep this handy, and then I will get working on these. So this is again, it's the watercolor layer. I'm going to keep it the 3.5 by 5 to do my stamping, and then I will just trim it down. So I'm going to use this one here. I also want to just make sure that my Versamark is re-inked. I think it needs a little bit more ink on there. I also want my embossing buddy, and I am using the Wow embossing powders. They are actually pretty wow. I love that. Linda, you'll have to let me know when it gets there. It is beautiful. Okay, so I have my Versamark refill. And we're going to just make sure this is nice and inky. I was quite impressed with how the embossing powder coated my image. Now I'm just going to use the tip to work this in so that it's not sitting in a puddle on top. And I think I'll just do a little bit more. Are you guys staying indoors today with this heat? We have some yard work and stuff to do and a party to go to. And it's warm out there. All right, so we can put the refill away. And I want to embossing buddy this here. I will just need to make sure I plug in my heat gun. So I'm just tapping this to make sure I get a good covering of embossing buddy. I don't want it too gritty because I don't want it to not be able to get a nice image on there. The paper's already a little groovy. All right, now I'm gonna flip this upside down and just tap that all over the image. Now we can flip this over, and I am going off to the side to leave room for a butterfly. Oopsie. Just taking a quick look to make sure I didn't drop that on the paper there. All right, so we're gonna go off to the side here. And then I'm gonna give that a good press. Okay, there we are. Now I just have a piece of paper. This embossing powder, is new. And I don't wanna mix it with any of my others. The traces that might be on my tray. I haven't washed them yet, so I just wanna be careful not to cross-contaminate any traces of my powder. There we go. But look what a nice coating that gives. And I just want to brush that corner off. Let's grab my little paintbrush. I've got to be concentrated so I'm not quite as chatty during this part. This card, I meant to say at the beginning, this one I cased from the catalog. I loved the layout. I should grab the catalog and show you guys. There we go. I will first pour this excess powder back. Hi Jerry, how are you? Back into the jar. So this is where the trays are great, but a piece of paper also works. Hi, Marcia. There we go. So this powder, I keep wanting to call it paper. I just was so impressed. I think I showed you guys a comparison of the white Wow to the white regular, and it is just really impressive. Okay, I will need those supplies back, but I want to heat this one before I stamp the butterfly. So I'm just plugging in my gun here. 1 second. There we go. So I let it heat up a little bit without aiming it at this. I don't want to end up overheating my image at all, especially because this is watercolor paper and I want this image to act like a well to hold the water. So I don't want to overheat and flatten that image out. Hi, Melody. So I'm just gonna be, that's why I wanted to make sure that my gun was heated up. And I'm just angling this towards the light so that I can see, I have a light here on the desk, so that I can see as soon as it's heated, and then I move on. By heated, I can tell that it has gone shiny on the part that I am aiming the heat gun at. And then that tells me that it is heat set. So once it is shiny, I don't want to stay on that area any longer because it could overheat and flatten out the image so that it's not glossy, and also it doesn't have that outline to hold the ink. Okay, so that's that one. Now I need to bring back the Versamark and heat this one up. Stamp it and heat it. 1 second. All right, how many of you have stamped with this bundle? I know Melody has. She did some beautiful cards, and actually the card I made for you guys the other day was very similar to one she had made that she sent me afterwards. She did a beautiful job. So I'm going to stamp this one right in here. Now I've got to find that one in the catalog so I can show you guys this, because I have tended to want to stamp the butterfly higher up in this nook of the flower. And the sample in the catalog had it down here. So I loved how they did that. My catalog was here with me. I'm going to have to find that. All right. So now we're going to powder this one. It has this little foam piece in the top. And every time I see that, I think it's my white powder. And so I keep searching for it, and it's right there in front of me. Now, when I heat this one, I also want to be careful not to aim my gun too far past the butterfly and end up overheating my flower, because that would still not be a good thing. So I'm just brushing off this excess. I have this really fine tip paintbrush that I got at a craft store here. There's like an artist supply store. And I love it. Look how fine. I don't know if you can see that without, but look how fine that is. I love this one. And then I have another tip for you. Sometimes when you have, let's say here, I'm going to show you, just going to squeeze a little bit out. If you've got a really fine area and you're worried that the bristles on your brush are going to, whoopsie, just knocked my cord down, go too far. I'm just getting my cord out of the way, trying not to move the camera. I'm sorry. Okay, if you are worried that the bristles of your brush will kind of flail into where your image is, you can use take your pick tool and just pick up those extra little stray dots. I have used this many times for that, when I just have a little bit that's in there in a little groove and I don't want to accidentally swipe off the rest and have to start over. Your take your pick tool can be handy for that. The other thing is, I was telling you guys I didn't want to cross-contaminate my powders. I accidentally used a sheet I had used with white powder unknowingly. And when I went to dump the excess back into my brand new black, the first time I used the black, there were some dots of white powder in there. So I squished the tip of my putty out a little bit more than that. And I just dabbed it in there and rolled it around where the white flakes were, or white flecks were, so that I could get them out of the black powder without forever having a contaminated black powder. So hopefully that helps you. It saved the day for me with this one, because it's not so bad if you're just doing an outline image, but if you are doing a solid image that you are heat embossing, you don't want to see those white flakes in the middle of your nice crisp black image. So I was thankful to remember my take your pick tool to get those out of there. All right, so now I'm going to heat set this. And again, I'm going to just heat it up a little bit off camera because I don't want to overheat my butterfly. And And I'm just aiming it at the corner of it first so I can ensure I have a little section that's heating up, melting. Those are tiny little beads of plastic, and it's just melting them in place. There we are. Okay, now I recently colored an orange from the, I think it was called Mediterranean Blooms. I could be wrong, but hi Tina. I had recently done some watercoloring with that for you guys, so this is very similar to that. I had also done the, oh gosh, Layers of Beauty with my Stamp Club. So this will be similar to that. So what we're going to do is color this first. I am going to grab my Berry Burst and Petunia Pop and my Flirty Flamingo. Just, oh, you know what? I used Pretty in Pink, not Flirty Flamingo. So I will use these three here on today's flowers. I might even switch out Pretty in Pink for Flirty Flamingo. And then for the leaves, I am going to use Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, and Lemon Lime Twist. I might even just switch out the Old Olive for Lemon Lime Twist once I get going. And we will see how that goes. This is the Berry Burst Petunia Pop and Pretty in Pink blends colored version. So we're going to see how this watercolor version. Now this one here is comparable, if you missed the beginning, to this one in the blends version. I added a little bit of Daffodil Delight onto this one because I had put a little bit on the butterfly, and then I decided to put some on the tips of the flowers. I'm not sure if I love it. It's a little too dark, but that's okay. We'll see how this one goes. All right, so we'll move those out of the way, and I'll just give you guys one more view of those. Oh, hi from Australia. Now these two I may switch out. So just showing you the palette, and I may switch Pretty in Pink for Flirty Flamingo. But we're going to begin with Berry Burst. I have a paper towel handy, and I actually should have put more water in here. So let's just see. I have another aqua painter handy that I'm going to just pour into here. And then I'm just doing this off camera because I don't want it to spill on my card. But this way I don't have to leave you to go fill it. I can just keep chatting while I make a mess, which is really what I'm doing. Now I'll just have to dry up that water on the floor and dry off my aqua painter here before I make droplets on my project. Okay, this should be good. I just want to make sure. There we are. I'm going to keep my paper towel handy. It's just off to the side here. So what I'm going to do is I want to make a very slight layer of water. I am not pooling this a lot because I don't want my dark shade to pool out to the edge. So this is just very thin. It's not a whole pool over that. And then I'm going to grab a rather pigmented bit of ink, and I'm going to place that into the lower part of the flower, the base of the flower. Now, if anyone's familiar with this set, tell me. I should know this, but is this a poppy? I think I called it a tulip the other day, and I have always looked at it as a poppy, but now I'm second guessing myself as to what kind of flower this is. So if you are familiar, please do tell me. So that's the Berry Burst. I think I'm going to add in a little bit more closer to the base. I want this part really deep. And then I'm going to get rid of that. So I am just using my paper towel. If you have a cloth, you can do that too. Definitely not a tulip. Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, I don't know why. Oh, shoot. Look at me. I don't know why I called it that the other day. And then I can't remember who I was looking at it with. And my mom was here yesterday. And she was asking me if that's a poppy, and I said, I think it is. And then I realized, oh no, I think I called it a tulip on my live. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit of the refill of Petunia Pop because I want this to be pigmented. So I am going to just grab a little bit of that. I didn't want it as light as what's over here. So now I'm going to just go a little bit further. And I'm gonna get a little bit of the, I don't want that quite so dark. I want it to be a little bit faded. So I'm going to pull that down into the Berry Burst. Okay, and then I think I will start with Pretty in Pink just so that I'm not going too peachy from there. We'll see how this turns out. Okay, so now I need the Pretty in Pink refill. This is one of the reasons that I recommend to people to get the refills when they buy the ink pads. There are so many, I just want to get the Petunia Pop out of the tip. There are so many techniques that you can do with the refills that I find it useful. Now this time I'm going to come from here. If you're just tuning in, I slightly wet these images or this image before I started coloring. So there was already a thin layer. Now I'm going to just drag this towards here a little bit just to blend out that line so it's not so stark. Now I am going to come back in with a little bit more Berry Burst down in here to darken that or deepen that. But I was just saying that things like this are exactly why I recommend getting those refills so that when you want to try something, you have it. If it's in your budget. Obviously, we can't all just always get all the things that we want, but if you're able to, and then I'm going to just kind of go over that just a little bit with a little bit of the Pretty in Pink. So there we are. That is the 3-tone watercolor. Tell me if it's a poppy, if anybody knows. And now I will move on to this one. So you wouldn't want to do the Berry Burst on all 3 flowers at one time. You want to move from one to the next so that one doesn't set in too much before you get back to the next stage, if that makes sense. So again, this is just like a very thin layer. I am not pooling this over. I am just barely wetting. I'm gonna just get a little bit, make sure that there's a little bit of water, just a tad in there, because I don't want the Berry Burst to run all the way to the tips of that flower. So now I'm picking up more Berry Burst. My ink pad is just off to the side if you're just tuning in. And I'm just putting this at the base, maybe about 1/3. This is kind of how I colored these with, you can see that is a little, look at that, it's running up between those lines here. So that tells you I did wet the paper, even though it didn't really look like it and you couldn't feel a pool there. But it's just a tad wet. Now I'm going to bring in the Petunia Pop. So when I did the Petunia Pop with the blends and my Stamp Club, we actually used, I think, 4 different shades. All right, so that was Berry Burst Petunia Pop. We're gonna come back into this Pretty in Pink and just take that from the tips towards here, towards the other colors. And if that was too dark, if you didn't want that, it's not, but you could also then just lift. I'm gonna just show you. If you dab that, it pulls up a little bit of the color. So I'm gonna just apply a little bit more fluid and then just come back in over top of that because I don't want that quite so light. I'm gonna grab a little more pigment because it's looking less. This one has a little touch of coral to it. I think the pink has that slight undertone. See, there we go. Now I'm gonna come back in with a little more Berry Burst in the base. Get rid of the Berry Burst. And then I'm gonna go for some of this watered down Petunia Pop and just blend out that line in between. Now you can't do that as much with, oh shoot, look what I did. I'm gonna have to get that off of there. Now that might be, I trimmed this one down a little bit, so I may have to take some off the top. We'll see when we get there. Hi Karen, Karen and Karen. How are you both? Now I have one more flower to do. So this one, I have a feeling I put too much water on there. That just lifted some off. So I'm gonna come in with the Berry Burst and we're gonna put Berry Burst in here. There we go. Now I need to get rid of that Berry Burst. That one you just use such a little amount because it is such a small little flower. And then and just blend that out a little. Then I'm gonna come in for the Pretty in Pink. I want a little more pigment to give it that corally appearance. Now I'm gonna put a little bit more Berry Burst. I'm gonna come out a little bit further with it. Get rid of that. And then blend over that line a little bit with Petunia Pop. So there we are. There is the flowers and that hideous blob of ink that I accidentally put on there. All right, now before I move on to the butterfly, I'm going to do the leaves because I don't want to do the butterfly first and then stick my hand in it. So I will come back with these colors to do that butterfly. I just want to be a little bit careful. You can see that I've already done that, and I actually did the same thing on this one. I was able to erase it a little bit, but it doesn't always work so great. Okay, so I've just gotten rid of the pink tones from there. And now I'm just putting, this time I'm going to do more than one at a time because they are so small. So I've got my Mossy Meadow, and I'm gonna put just a little bit of Mossy Meadow at the base of the leaves there. Now, and this will also, because these are so small, this is gonna help me not have to clean out my aqua painter quite so many times. So now I'm gonna get some more pigmented than not. A little bit of Old Olive. And then I'm gonna get rid of that. And now I'm going to bring in a little bit of Lemon Lime Twist. Okay, there we go. And then you get that little bit of pop of color, and I'm gonna drag that towards the darker tones just to tone that down. So there you can see that it's a little bit wet and you get those different colors in there. All right, now we're gonna wet these next few. I'm just doing a few at a time, and again, this is just a super thin layer of water. It is not pooled thick. Sometimes you want a nice thick pool of water, and this, so that we get a deeper color, we are not doing that now. I think I did this one here. There we go, just a little bit of Mossy Meadow at the lower base there of the leaves. Now I'll get rid of that. Clean that out and bring in some Old Olive again. Just a little bit. Now we're gonna bring in the Lemon Lime Twist again. Hi, Louise. Is it as hot where you are, Louise, as it is here? It is a hot Saturday. There we go. So I'm just again pulling that towards the darker colors a bit to tone them down and let that lighter tip pop. Now I'm gonna just gently, very thin layer again here, and we're gonna repeat those steps. I probably could have done these last couple at the same time as the last round, but better safe than sorry. And then just a little bit of Old Olive where it transitions there. Now get rid of that Old Olive and bring in some lemon lime twist. Now I have the refill right in there as opposed to just squishing the ink pad so that it's more pigmented. Otherwise it would be a lot more toned down when I'm coloring this. So this is as deep as it is because I have put the pigment straight in there and very little water on my paper. Okay, we just want to get rid of all that green. I don't want that in there when I go to this butterfly. All right, so we're going to put these away. And we are going to come back to the Berry Burst Petunia Pop and Pretty in Pink for the butterfly. Now I haven't done this before. This was actually a first, and then this is going to be a first. So I hope that this works out. I think I'm going to skip the Petunia Pop and just do Berry Burst and the Pretty in Pink. This was just the two colors as well. So we're going to see how this goes. I do not normally ever create on the fly on a live. I normally make my full sample and I don't stray because it gives me anxiety. So please bear with me and I hope this turns out. All right. You have a mixed day, sun, rain, and cool breeze. Those days are really nice too. I love that. Okay. So we're going to come in here with some of this, that you can tell that that's pretty dry. I don't want too much water, but I do want a little bit. There we go. I don't want it to just drop like a deep blob onto there and not be able to blend because there's no water, right? That's not what we want. So I'm just putting a little bit in here, just kind of loosely going over those detailed lines on the butterfly, but not really further. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of that Berry Burst from here. Run that out with the water that's in the barrel. Now I'm going to try the Pretty in Pink. On here it kind of looks like Flirty Flamingo, but no, I just want to add, sorry, I knocked my stack of ink pads over. I just want to add a little bit more water, make sure that it's still got some there, and then we're going to bring in this Pretty in Pink. Now see, that is way less pigmented than here, so I've probably got too much water in here, and I can always lift some color. I showed you guys that on one of the flowers there. I'm just getting some of the pigment here in the tips so I can pull it towards the, I'm going to just turn it this way, and then I can go with what's comfortable for my coloring. And we're just going to go over this and try to blend out that line. If you are just joining, this is watercolor paper. That probably made sense given that I'm using an aqua painter, but just in case. And then we're going to just gently go over that. And I'm just trying to blend the Blackberry Bliss line into the Pretty in Pink line, or into the Pretty in Pink, so that there isn't a line. There we go. Now I'm going to come back in with some Berry Burst just over the closer to the body part, the inside part of it, to deepen that a little bit more. Then we're going to get rid of this. Sometimes it works better sometimes to build layers. So even though you're using the same colors, you can deepen parts of it by adding more layers. So if you're afraid to start with the depth of color that you want, you can come back in and add more. So now I debate, do I add more, or do I add any of that Petunia Pop in between, or do I just keep it with like this? I'm a little tempted to try and lift a little bit of the Pretty in Pink off the tips here to lighten that. You can see it lifted just a little bit. And then I'm tempted to deepen it just a little bit more in here. Now I'm too afraid to come into these little lines here and add detail, so I think I'll leave those. But this is about as brave as I get with on the fly. I'm just a big chicken when it comes to that. Now I also could, if I want to lighten this pink a little bit, add just a touch of water and then try to lift that off. So we're gonna see. I think we're gonna leave that like that. What do you guys think? Does it look okay to you? Aside from this big blob here. Okay, so we're gonna put these away. I'm gonna try something to see if I can get rid of some of that very burst of all colors. We're gonna see how this goes. I wanna try not to touch anything else. Thank you, Melody. And thanks, Louise. This is a sand eraser. Unfortunately, this is not something that Stampin' Up! Sells, but we are going to use this. Look at that. It is definitely helping. And the bonus with this is that it's watercolor paper. It can be a detriment and a bonus. The detriment is that it's watercolor paper and that ink can really just seep right in there. But the bonus is that this paper is already a little textured and not gritty, but it's a little more forgiving if you need to erase it and not have that paper where you erased it look so different than the rest of the sheet as it would with basic white, because it is so smooth. So this here, there we go. So thank goodness. I think that's passable. I can live with that. So we're gonna just get rid of that. And I'm actually just gonna use my adhesive eraser to just swipe. I can always just dust this off, but I'm just gonna swipe that grit off my glass mat. And then I can just wipe off my eraser, or you can, oh sorry, the embossing buddy, or I could just take a piece of packing tape and stick it onto there and it would lift all those little gritty things off. Add bling to the cover. Yes, for sure. I am tempted to splatter it, but I don't know. Should I splatter or should I not? Maybe I'll leave it. I'm afraid to mess it up. But I will add some gems for sure. I just have to decide which. I think I might add butterflies. On this one, I used these gems here. They are the adhesive backed Dots for Days. I used this color, but I think I'm going to use butterflies on this one. So let's grab, I have the brass butterflies. I have been loving the brass butterflies with this bundle. I just have to find where I put the case of them. Oh, they're back in the shelf where they belong. Can you imagine that? That's where they are. So we're going to use these. And I just need to grab, excuse me while I turn away for a second, my Brights DSP so that I can cut some of the, oh, that settles. I'm sure I have the Brights. Here they are. Oh, that's Regals. Where are the Brights? Do I not have the Brights? That would be shocking if I, or is this the Brights? Is Calypso Coral in the Brights? Maybe it is. No, it's in the Subtles. Let's see, everyone. Do I have two of the Subtles? This says Brights. I might have mixed up the packaging. Let's see what I've done here. I love these color collections. Well, there's Berry Burst, so I don't know how, I must have not used Calypso Coral. I used Flirty Flamingo on this one because I took that from the Brights. Well, look at me, I don't even know what I'm doing. No splatter, thank you, Marcia. All right, so on this one, I'm gonna use the Berry Burst, and I have a scrap of Berry Burst that is just hiding underneath my embellishments now because I just plunked them down. So I'm gonna cut these and we will use those in place of what I thought was Calypso Coral, which is actually Calypso Coral cardstock and Flirty Flamingo DSP. Now that I have sorted out where my error was, and I just have to grab my little cutter here. Okay, so this is a 3/8 strip. So I'm going to just take my 6x6 color collection, which is from the Brights. This is Berry Burst. And I know that about 1/8 of an inch before the edge of the silver blade is 3/8. I use this little cutter to do this size of paper quite frequently. So I'm gonna just cut a strip off, put that over here with my Flirty Flamingo. That was a silly mistake with that DSP. Now look at that nice blob of Berry Burst on my hand. I'm gonna just quickly measure that strip because I actually trimmed it down some afterwards. I had initially cut more than I wanted. So I'll start with, this is gonna be 2 1/4. So I'm gonna do 2 1/4. And then I'm going to use a little strip of scrap of Berry Burst, and this is gonna be 2 1/2. So this is by 1/2 inch, and I am going to trim it down to 3/8, just like the other one. I started with a 1/2 inch and it was just a little bit too thick. So we're gonna narrow this one down. Is anyone staying indoors crafting today? Jerry, how's the weather where you are? All right. Okay, so I want to cut, I'll bring this closer so you can see just a little angle on each of those. And I just do that freehand. So just like that. And then if you want the angles to match, you can take your first one and line it up on the second one. So I know I want just this slight little angle here. There we go. Oh, it's a little off. There we go. So now they match. Cloudy and going to rain. Now, have you guys had a lot of rain? And have you had fires where you are? Alrighty. So tell me what you guys think. Because again, I don't normally do this on the fly. I normally need this done at least once. I'm gonna have to trim these back because they are a little bit too long. So what I'm gonna do is leave my angled edge and I'll cut a little bit off just a little bit, like maybe not even 1/8 of an inch. There we go. So just that much. Yeah, same thing on this one. So let's just check those out. I was saying I do not normally do anything on the fly, so you guys can let me know what you think here. And I can take this one, no, maybe I'll leave that one. It's good, I'll leave it. Again, I do not normally decide these things on the fly. Now I have one more stamp to do, which is on this little circle. I have aligned my greeting. I showed you guys this the other day. And we're gonna just try to wipe that ink off of there. When I line these up, I often don't put the stickers on my images, but I have placed my block straight onto a grid so I can see that line. And then what I do is I look through the top and line my greeting up with another line that I can see through the grid. And then that way when I'm stamping, I just make sure my block is parallel to the grid or the grid lines, and I should be safe. So I'm going to use Night of Navy for the greeting. And we just want to tap that gently. You don't want to press really hard or rock and roll, because then you are more likely. I'm actually going to just clean this off first and re-go, because I did not clean it in between. I don't have my chamois nearby, which I did have it. I keep losing everything, everyone. I probably placed my cutter on top of it, is probably what I did. I will just spray my paper towel and clean it with that. I like to try to start fresh, just so that you don't get any blobs. You're doing some cards today, Linda. Lots of fires again. Oh no. Of course, fires and torrential rain. Like, one or not one or the other. Some are just a happy medium, right? So I'm just tapping gently, very, very gently, just straight up and down. You don't want to press too hard. You don't want to rock and roll, because then you're more likely to get smudging and halos, and just not as crisp of a greeting. So just a very gentle, straight up and down tap, and then a straight down and up stamp. All right, so I think I really like this color scheme. I think I prefer this one. What do you guys? Which is your, this or that? For me, that is my favorite. All right, so now we are going to just do some slight distressing. When I have really simple layers, just a very slight distress, I find, differentiates your layers or softens them just a little bit. Gives you just a tad more interest when you've got really basic layers, but there's no harm in not doing this. I meant to actually distress this one before I ran it through, so that it was less likely to tear. When you've got all these textured lines, you're more likely to tear your paper when you're distressing this. So just be cautious if you choose to do that. Now I centered this panel, and then I offset the other ones. This is slightly different than the sample in the catalog. The sample in the catalog has a DSP front, and then I don't know if it's watercolor paper or cardstock. I'm not sure. I can't recall how they colored the sample in the catalog, but I believe the focal layer was centered on the card, and I just offset it. So there we are with that. Now I'm also going to distress the edge of this. I'm just trying not to place my fingers where I have watercolored. It should be good and dry by now, but you all saw, oh, I need to cut this down. I forgot that part. So this one here, I cut down by 1/4 of an inch. Let me just make sure. So it should be 4 3/4 instead of 5. And I think I'm actually going to take 1/8 off the top and 1/8 off the bottom. Well, no, I'll take 1/4 off the bottom. We'll just make it easy. And then that's actually more comparable to this one here. And I just eyeballed it. I didn't measure because this cutter doesn't go out that far. So don't do like I did there. Measure it if you want it to be precise. All right. Let's see, it should be, yeah, it's good. It's the same. There we go. So now I just re-distressed the bottom that I cut off. Good thing I remembered that. There we go. And now I am going to dimensional this one, but I am offsetting it to the left side. So we're gonna go ahead with my dimensionals here. So tomorrow I will, we just got busy today and I forgot to post the announcement of the live time. So thank you guys so much for coming and tuning in, but I will give you more notice for tomorrow. So we'll just sort out the time, and then I owe you guys 2 projects for tomorrow. So tomorrow I will do 2 more Spotlight on Nature cards, and then that will wrap up the Spotlight on Nature series. So my club members can still earn their extra cards. And if you are interested in earning this week's card kits, you can still do so as well. So with a $65 purchase using either this host code or by contacting me, you can earn all of the cards that I've made this week, and I will recap those shortly. Okay, so now we are going to glue this one down, and it is going to go about right there. I'm going to just use a little piece of tear and tape for this. I like to use tear and tape when I'm sticking this down to the watercolor paper, and it's going to go right up to the edge and maybe a tad lower, about right there. I just want to get it right up to the edge. I don't want that white showing, or off-white, whatever color you want to call that. Now, oh, you know what? I'm going to gently lift that off. I forgot to distress this one. So I just gave this a little bit of distressing too. I am not going to distress the DSP layer. I just did this one. And there we go. So now that's going to go back down. There we are. Now I can put some tear and tape on this one. I love stripes as well. This one, if you are not comfortable with watercoloring and you need a quick and simple layout, I am tipping this one just a little. If you need a quick and simple layout and you have this stamp set and you want to just color it with your blends, then you could certainly switch this out. It saves you the step of doing the heat embossing, and it saves you the step of all the watercoloring and cleaning your brush in between every color. So don't feel like you have to do this one with watercolor if you're just not comfortable with it. You can still use the layout and the colors and just switch out your paper and coloring medium. There we go. So just mini dimensionals for the greeting. That was just done with basic white cardstock. And I'm going to line up my greeting kind of with the line between the two pieces of paper. There we are. Now I have my linen thread. So I'm just going to make... I contemplated putting the navy twine on this one, but I opted against that for linen thread. I want to be able to give you guys the supplies I used, and who knows what's going to happen with that linen thread as soon as it goes live to everybody on the 4th. The holiday catalog goes live on the 4th, and we have that really cool linen thread that is navy Cajun Craze, and it's either Garden Green or Mossy Meadow. I can't remember. There we are. So I'm just going to glue dot that right here. You like the peachy one. It's good. Like, we all have different tastes, right? So I thought, like, usually I don't do things in 2 different colors, but I was like, oh, you know what? Let's try today. And we'll do 2 different ones. I really wanted to see what it looked like in the pinks, but I also wanted to do a somewhat traditional, like, this isn't quite traditional, but a little closer to traditional than the pink butterfly. And I wanted one of these to coordinate with the card I did the other day. So anybody that earns the supplies for these cards, because the only thing that is different is I will give you both strips of color and the brass butterflies. So you can choose what color you want to color it, because you'll still get your navy paper, you'll still get the watercolor paper. I will give you the circle die cut, and I'll give you the strips of cardstock in both colors, and then I'll give you the brass butterflies that I'm going to use on this card. So then that way you guys have more freedom to choose what color you want to color it in. And also, if you don't have either of these colors of coloring mediums, what you can do is just cut yourself a new strip of cardstock and a strip of DSP to coordinate with whatever color you decide to color, and you're good to go. Okay, so now we are going to put I think we're going to do let's see, a large butterfly. Now, I also never decide placement of embellishments on a live. I'm not good with this. They are like the thing I struggle with most. I love bling, but it can be hard to decide where to put it. I might move these, but we're gonna put those there for now. And then I think I will do, let's see, I don't like the butterfly over here. So I think we're gonna put one right there. But I might move these. Let's see. Let's see if this is better like this. I think we're gonna switch it to that. And then I'm gonna angle this guy a little bit more. There we are. And this one needs a slight change of angle too. I'm gonna keep it there, but just angle it a little bit more. There we go. So I'll bring this a little closer. I do really like how the blending worked out on here. This one might have been a little bit better had I not added the yellow to the tips as an afterthought. So I may even come into this one and just wet it a little bit first and bring in more of that transition color so that it's not so stark yellow on the tips and then light in between. I might do that. So that way, like this one here, I did the 3 different colors right from the beginning. So they blend a little more softly than this one does. But that is the 2 different color schemes, or 2 different sets of color for the coloring, and then otherwise the rest is the same. But you'll have to let me know this or that, and I will post these as well, and then people can weigh in on the photo of them and let me know what your favorite is. So to earn these cards, because I am only doing card number 4 and 5 tomorrow, I don't want to close the deadline for earning this week's cards as Sunday night. So I'm going to just, I'm going to grab my calendar 1 second. I don't want to switch my phone over to my calendar, otherwise I won't see your comments. Okay, so Sunday is the 25th, so we will go with Wednesday the 28th. So if you would like to earn this week's cards, you will have until Wednesday the 28th at midnight. And then that way, if you decide to place a purchase of $65 or more, you will qualify to get the card kits for this week. I will just give you a quick recap of the cards, and I wanted to show you the card that was in the catalog. So that is this one here, and it looks like, it's hard to tell if that's, it's hard to know which coloring method they used. Maybe watercolor, I'm not too sure. So these are my cases of the catalog sample. So if ever you are stuck for ideas, don't be afraid to go to that catalog and look for ideas there. They always have lots of great ideas, and of course they're honored if we case what they have created for us. Oh, thanks, Jerry, you guys are so kind. So that is my case of the catalog. And then Tuesday is the deadline for the early bird registration for the Stampin' Cross Country Retreat that I'm doing with Heidi Collins, Melissa Faust, Cheryl Wright, and oh, I cannot remember Marion's last name. But if you check the registration form on Google, I have posted the link the other day in the comments under the post advertising the retreat. And if you're on my email list, you should have gotten it. I have their full names on there and their business pages as well. So hopefully you will join by the 27th if you're interested in that. And then I also will be posting information on Stamp Club that is coming up. That is virtual as well. So anyone, you can join across Canada. And then I do have an in-person retreat coming up in November as well. And then some other events with the new catalog coming out. So that is everything for today. I'll get a picture of these and I'll get it posted for you guys. And then I will also figure out what time I'll come back tomorrow, and that will be with 2 more projects to finish off this series. Oh, I told you guys I would recap the cards. So let me just do that real quick. So we have card number 1 will be this card here. I just have to determine which DSP I will give you guys. It'll be one of these 3. And then card number 2, this was actually card number 1. So card number 1, whoops, I'm throwing things here. Card number 2 and card number 3, and then we will still have card number 4 and 5. So that would be the kits that you would earn if you decide to place a $65 purchase, either with this host code or by contacting me if you're local and you choose to pick up locally. All right, have a great Saturday, everybody. I hope the rest of your weekend goes well, and hopefully I'll see you back here tomorrow. Well, I'll be back, and hopefully you guys will be back too. All right, good night, everybody.